Good morning. Humidity's kicking my butt.
Alright, but can I get one down a little bit way?
Good morning. Welcome
Good
morning. Welcome to another edition of Tower Crane Television. I'm your host, Jay Knight, the Tower Crane Guy. And we are unloading a rebar truck this morning, a whole big one. I'll get this camera flipped around in a second. We're gonna get this first load over there, and then we'll get the camera. I'm gonna put the camera in a bunch of different angles today.
You coming up easy? Coming up a little bit more. There you go, bud, you got it. I tried to put all the ties and bags right here, too. This area right here.
Temple.
Dad's gonna get a home test and come on down. Hold that shit. Hold down another thing. Hey, that's good. Come on down.
Alright, so we can get this camera flipped around for you guys. I'm going to put you in about 3 different angles today. I'll put you on the floor, and then we're going to set you in the window right now. Let you guys see where we're at and what we're doing. So, we're going to flip over here to this truck. Now the crane we're in a Potane MR 160C Luffing jib tower crane. We're 130 feet in the air. We got 130 foot of jib. Our max pull on this crane is 22,300 pounds. It's just shy of 12 tons. We're sitting at about 11.5 tons. So 12 tons is 24,000 pounds. So we've been on this job since March, and we're coming quite along. We got one more level of parking garage, and we got 7 levels of building to go up, wood framing. So, and it takes a little bit to get it done. This is taking quite a while, but if you guys haven't done already, I do a lot of the commentary on this because I have my YouTube channel as well, which is Tower Crane Television. So I always upload these videos to that platform as well. should have a new fuse coming today for this crane. It's been blowing fuses like crazy on the AC. Those bags right there are 1,000 pounds. 1,000-pound bags.
Come on down, dude. Come on down.
This particular job site,
Down about 3 more feet. Alright, hold it.
this particular job site, we have power lines on
Come on down.
literally on all four angles of this. This is literally just a big box, and it's just a very square building, and
Hold it.
there's power lines on every road. So we have power lines in front of us here, which are just residential, and then the main street that you see, you can't see it on that angle, but the main street has I think it's either 250,000 or it's 550,000 volts. It's pretty big cable. I'm thinking 250. It's just not. It could be 550. But we have multiple hospitals on this main road, so I think that those power lines are powering those hospitals, and just, you know, the potential of danger is always there. That's why you just got to be super cautious. And like on any job, you know, these rig sig guys, and this goes for any job, I don't care what job you're on, they will always push you to try to do more for them. You know, that's just any given job. And you know, you just have to put your foot down. I had to do it yesterday. I had to tell a guy 5 times yesterday that I refused the pick, and he tried to trick me. He had me pick the load up just a little bit to our right, and then try to get me to put it over here at my 9 o'clock. And once I got it over there to the location he wanted, then he switched it on me and was trying to get me as close as he could to the power lines. I just refused the load. You know, when you're a crane operator, you have that authority to refuse loads. You know, if they're not going to do it correctly, then you can refuse it. You know, and I had to tell the guy 5 times before he got it. I mean, and he just tried to argue with me. And after I sat there for 20 minutes and wouldn't move the load, I just started putting it down, and they actually had me put it back where I originally picked it up. And you run into that. You got to remember, if you do it one time for them, they expect you to do it every time. And that's the way crane operation goes. They expect you to do it every single time if you do it for them one time. So you got to immediately put your foot down. If it ain't correct, you know, or if it could be a danger, don't even do it once, you know, because you're allowing them to set the mood on the things you will pick and the things you won't pick. So I don't bullshit these guys. I tell them the straight up truth. And, you know, I'll refuse loads. And I did it to him yesterday. So
Push him up a little bit more.
that bag you got your hand on, can you pull it out a little bit? bag closest to me. So I'm trying to make sure he doesn't get hung up on that rebar right there. I don't know if I'm free on the other side. Looks like they have it. Yeah, he kind of got it. It was jammed in there a little bit. There we go. There we go.
You got it, bud.
Now, we'll get into the conversation about. I had a guy comment on my YouTube channel. What's the difference between a luffing jib tower crane and a flat top? And it's controlled airspace. You know, luffers are a lot slower than a flat top. A flat top you can really jam out with a flat top, and you have no controlled airspace. You know, when they put a flat top in, it's probably because there's no controlled airspace, or there is because there's maybe other tower cranes around that are flat tops. Like I have off to my 3 o'clock. I have 3 tower cranes over there, and they're all set at different heights. You know, so. But this one, the controlled airspace is the power lines, and we have another building over here to my 6 o'clock that is just right next to us. So
come on down about 20.
Using a flat top for this was not convenient. So
Come on down about 10.
and the luffers do move slower. I mean, a luffing jib tower crane is nothing more than a mobile crane up in the air. So they do run a touch slower, and I really had to slow down my I just had to slow down my way of thinking to make it run faster, if that makes any sense. Because the last crane I was in was a flat top, and it had 213 foot of jib, and that thing it'd haul the mail. It was pretty fast. So getting in this was like doing slow motion. And this crane has it's got a limiter on it, so anything past 55 feet on the jib, booming down, it'll go into slow mode. Anything 55 feet and above, or less than, so 55, 54, 53, it'll go into a faster slewing gear, so you can slew faster. But once you hit 55 feet and greater, it'll slow itself down. So you have more of a controlled swing, and your load isn't pitching out.
There you go, bud. You guys ahead and get with it.
10-4, are you only using 2 chains?
Just for right now.
10-4, if you go into 4 chains, I need you to stagger them. So just reminding the rig set guy that if he's going to go into 4 chains, I want him staggered. So the loads are not. He has 4 chains hanging down. 2 of them are shorter, and 2 of them are longer. And this way, the load isn't slamming against itself, and it makes it easier for the guys that are receiving it, because they can get the first load, which will be 2 chains, set it down. Then the second load they can set down wherever they want. It just makes it a lot easier on them, because they're not trying to control 4 pieces at one time. So now, you know, when they pick this stuff up, they or when they rig it up. We're gonna see. Yeah, it says 2 bundles.
Coming up.
Yeah, these guys are going for it all.
This is good. You coming up with the money?
So there's 2,400. There's 2,400 on the hook right there. So and it's just an odd shape. So we're gonna see how this sits. As long as it stays. As long as I control my swing on it, it should stay together and it won't try to break itself apart.
That's about good on your boat,
Yeah, I gotta boom up far enough to make sure I clear the power lines, but it has nothing to do with that. I gotta make sure I clear that big power line. Or should I say power pole? And I always go a little more.
I've got to put on the other side of where we put the back there.
So you got a power pole right there, and it looks like it's got a little cell phone tower on it. So you want it right where you're at?
Yes, sir.
Temple. These guys, they think that you can spin it right to them, and you can, but I always go a little more on my boom or whatever, just to be cautious. Once you hit something, you can't take it back.
Another 2 feet.
So there's no room for error when it comes to swinging loads with obstructions, and there's no room for error when you're having to swing loads over people. So
down a little bit more, about 3 feet.
there's a post I shared a while back that I have tower crane operators have the eyes of a hawk and the hands of a surgeon, and it's no joke, man. You got to be on the money. And it goes back to what I've always said, and I will always say, you're only as good as your last pick. If you swing things crazy over these people, they're not going to trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're going to make your job hard, so you never want to lose that trust with these guys. And they're under a time constraint, to get things done from their boss or whatever, so you try to be as consistent as possible. I try to be more consistent than fast. As long as I'm consistent, then they'll respect me because I'm consistent. You don't always have to be fast. You just got to be consistent. Let me take a peek here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. A bunch of you on here. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thomas, Seth, Tony, what's up, bud? Matt, what's up? Anybody I missed? Good morning. Facebook doesn't always show me who's on, so. But this is going to be the last load, I think, of rebar that we have for the very last floor. So.
Hold up, Nick.
I get the best of both worlds of this job. I've gotten to do concrete, run the, I think it's a 1.5 or 2 yard concrete bucket. I think it's more 1.5. I've got to run concrete bucket here and do wall forms and set rebar columns and set rebar walls. So I've gotten to do that. And then the last portion of this job will be all wood frame. So getting the best of both worlds with this. You guys have been following me from the beginning. You know, one of my first jobs I ever did was in Oklahoma City, and it was a parking garage, but it was much, much bigger than this. It was a parking garage for a stadium. So that was my very first crane, and that was, you talk about being thrown in the hot seat. That was a 24-ton Recon. It was a brand new crane. It was 120 feet off the ground, which wasn't very high at the time. To me it was, I guess, for my first crane, but that thing was a 24-ton crane. It was unreal. That thing, my very first pick solo was 19,975 pounds. It was a big pipe, a big peering pipe they put in the ground with a lattice crane, and I had to load it on a flatbed. So that was my very first pick. So you talk about being broke in. The operator who was running that crane at the time, he was like, I'll do this load. And I was like, no, I'll do it. I've been waiting my whole life to do this. And he was impressed. That crane, had a I'm starting to pick here. There's 2,200 on the hook. That crane had a and I'll show you guys here in a minute when I get a chance to flip that camera around. All these cranes have dead man switches. In that particular crane, the Recon, 10-4. That particular crane, the Recon, it actually had heat sensors in it on your hands. So it sensed your heat, and then it would allow you to control the crane. But the second you let your hand off of it, just for a second, the crane would stop any movement you were doing. So your hands always had to be right on the controls, pretty, not tightly, but if you put them on too tight, it wouldn't work. Your hands had to be on it just perfectly. So. One more time.
Come on down. Yeah. Come on down.
So another frequently question I get asked a lot is, you know, what's the most frustrating part of doing this job, like picks or whatever? And the picks don't bother me. Even the really hard ones or complicated ones or the blind picks where you can't see, none of that intimidates me at all. I find it a great challenge, and it puts me to the test. The biggest complaint I have about being a tower crane operator is when they switch rig and sig guys on me. When they put guys on the radio that don't have a clue what they're doing, and I have to repeatedly tell them how to do their job. I mean, it's all part of the job. It all comes with the territory. But probably that's my biggest pet peeve, is that these companies don't take it as serious as I do, I guess. And when they found out, they let a guy walk away who had quite a few years in rig and sig, and he went somewhere else. And when that happened, the crane movement slowed down. You know, and it will slow down because now I'm unfamiliar with somebody, and I don't trust them like I did that guy because we built that trust. So this is a trust game. You have to build a certain amount of trust with somebody to know that they're going to put you in a blind pick where they're going to rig it correctly. They're going to make sure that it's not being obstructed. They're going to make sure that they're not putting you in danger as well as themselves. So those things all take time. You just don't jump in with somebody who's a rig and sig person, I don't care how many years they got, and trust them right off the bat. That trust is built over time. Yeah. Is that, can you grab a 2x4 mover, or is it just too heavy?
It's not that heavy. The thing is that we can't get anything in there. It's mostly
Alright, so this particular situation, so he's asking me to pull the choker out. In a situation like this, if it's a little hung up, I don't mind trying to help him. But
one more to go.
I don't encourage it. I don't encourage it because what it does is it puts friction on those chokers, and if you do it a bunch, you'll end up just destroying them. It also puts a kink in that choker too, so now that choker has a kink which can potentially start fraying the choker away, which will eventually break.
Come on up.
Anybody that knows me knows my attention. Anybody knows me, my attention to detail is pretty meticulous. If you've seen any of the vehicles I own, or how I, just the vehicles I own, I'm pretty meticulous. So when it comes to this job, I'm super meticulous, and these guys don't care about the rigging as much as they should. So it's my job to make sure that I care about it as much as I can. Because once that load's off the ground, it's my full responsibility. That's with any crane operator. Once that load leaves the ground, 1 inch, you're fully responsible for it. So you want to make sure that everything is as perfect as it can possibly be sitting up in this seat. If you're on the ground and you're running a mobile crane, it's a little different. You can jump out of the seat, run over there and look at it, and make sure it's correct. But up here you can't. So that's where that trust factor comes in. Morning, Daniel. I guess another pet peeve would be, you got one guy that wants to whisper in my ear more than my wife does, and then you got one guy that wants to talk extremely loud. So you can never get them to talk on the same level, I guess. So it's a constant. Sometimes it's a constant turning the radio up and down, and sometimes it's sometimes it's you need to speak up, buddy. Carlos.
Okay.
Hey, I got one of my guys coming from the crane company today. He's going to bring me a fuse, an amp, a breaker. When he shows up, let me know, and then I can send the bucket down and get the breaker from him, okay? Appreciate it. So, I'm going to put you guys on the floor for a minute and let you get this floor view. Now you can see some of the tower there, and a lot of it, a big chunk of it is in the ground, and it's surrounded by the parking structure here. We'll just take a peek around real quick. So that's a wall we just finished yesterday. I just put the pump truck on that and finish that out, and they're going to continue that wall. So, and there's the floor they just pumped the other day. So, it's been a scorcher here last couple of days. It's been up in the hundreds. So.
One more time, we're running to low heating.
So they're getting rebar caught on everything here.
One more thing, landing to low heating.
I'll put you guys back in the window. Oh. They seem to have gotten it stuck. The only problem when they load these up, you would think they put all the small pieces together in one spot. And
There you go, bud. You got it? Yeah. Just about David.
Ten-4, boss.
Come on, Dan.
So another frequently asked question I get is, what's the best way to control pendulum swing? Whatever works for you, that's the best way to control pendulum swing. You know, a lot of these companies want you to do 3-function, and that's fine. Find a way to do 3-function. But if 2-function works better for you, and it depends on what you're picking. If you're picking if you're picking something that's really like a weird shape or it's really long, you want to try to control that as much as possible. And if you have to go into a 2-function pick, then that's what you have to do. You know, there's no formula for this. It depends on the operator and how you operate the crane. If you're super herky-jerky, then you probably need to slow things down, you know. Good morning, honey. My wife is watching. And it all depends on how you operate the crane. You know, every pick is different. So now we're going to get into some of the long stuff here, and I will control the crane a little bit differently, just depending on the length of it, the weight of it, and where I have to put it, you know. What obstacles are in my way. All those things come into a factor when doing this job, and your efficiency on how fast or slow you move the crane. So I'm assuming, based on the 2x4s I see laying on the ground, that we're going to put a lot of that long stuff right there. Hey, Looney. Hey, Looney.
Yeah.
All that long stuff going right there in front of you on the 2x4s? 10-4.
Come on up.
So now I know where it's going. Now I know now I've set my game plan, you know, on how fast I want to move the crane or how fast I need to move the load, because I don't need to move it too fast. It's going right there. So I guess when you're operating, you know, you want to take into account how many times do you have to counter swing to catch the pendulum swing, and is it faster to go slower, or is it faster to catch the pendulum swing? That would be the big question, you know. And that all comes down to the operator again. The boom down on this thing is extremely slow. And I think these guys think that it's me doing it, but it's not. I've got it going as fast as it'll go. Put that tagline right in his hand.
Take a bus. You got it. Are you Kevin?
We'll see if he remembered what I said about staggering. With this particular guy, I'm sure I'm going to have to remind him. So we'll see. So we're good for 12,003 right here where we said. So let's see. Yeah, he staggered it. Good job. I didn't have to remind him.
Was that you, Luffing?
first one's at 1,500. That guy will get out of the way. So the choker's kind of, it's just tightening up, so it's going to create a little bit of tension in it. And it'll pop like that. So I'm going to cable back down, and the see where he's got his hand on the tagline? I want you to take that choker and slide it down a little bit more towards the, not the middle. I want you to take that choker and slide it down more towards the angle, so it'll pick up a little more even. So I got to pick it back up because now it's sitting on the wood, so you're going to have to adjust that. Make sure that choker doesn't sit on that wood or you won't get it out of there. That's good right there. Don't go too far. That's good. So we're going to see if it picks it up even now, because now it's got weight on that end because of those angles. There we go. Perfect. And we could have adjusted that two different ways. We could have took the other one and just went the other way with it, but this way it's supporting it a little better. And stuff like that, I'm training these guys to do it the right way. And that's what it comes down to. I could have picked it and it could have had a little pitch to it and that would have been fine, but I'm trying to train these guys to do it the right way. Because if they would have done it the right way, I wouldn't have had to tell them, right? Right. So... I'm not going real far, so I'm not going to go real fast, just to control the pendulum swing again. Got 4,700 on the hook with both pieces. I'm gonna get it fairly close to where he wants it. Then I'll adjust my boom or my swing or whatever I gotta do. Now what I like to do is I always keep the load a little high. I always keep the load a little high from where.
You think that's about 2 feet?
I always keep the load a little high from where it needs to be, so when I do boom down, it actually brings the load lower to him, and I don't have to cable back up as I'm booming down. So that's why I always keep the load just a little high, and then I boom down. So I'm literally saving me from having to cable it up, and it causes a bunch of jerk and not jerking, but it just creates some pendulum. It creates pendulum swing when you do that. So I'm trying to control the pendulum swing.
Come on down. Come on down. Hold it.
So that's why I always have it a little higher when I go to boom
Come on
down,
down up on the
when I go to boom down to a place, you say boom down?
Slow down. I'm just gonna hook that one and turn the other one the other way. Come on down.
10-4 boss.
Yeah, let's think about 50 feet. Hold it. Come on down. Hold it.
And the most ridiculous question you'll get asked as a crane operator. This is the most ridiculous. You ready? Can you swing 6 inches over to the left? Really? 6 inches? You can't push it 6 inches to the left and I'll cable down?
Come on up. Hold it. Back down, dude. Go with that.
10-4.
Okay, well, up. Yeah.
That's my windshield wiper. In case you're wondering.
Go ahead and put that a little bit more back. There you go, you good. Go ahead and go with that a little bit more. How are you, sir? Oh, sorry.
So it looks like I need to boom down a little bit so that we're not pulling the load. We're not going to swing the load in. I can tell that because the chains are being, he's having to force the chains. I'm going to boom down a little bit here. Try to get the load more center. Or the block more center is what I'm talking about.
Let it get back.
I'm good for 11.6 right here, so I'm sure that's not 11.6, not even close. Can barely hear you.
Coming up a little more.
10-4.
There you go. You got it? Yeah. Thanks, Patrick.
So a little trick that I've learned, and it's just all trial and error, is if you're unsure of how somebody has rigged something up, or you're just not 100% secure with how they do things, a thing you can do is pick the load up and let it sit there for a minute. Don't move it right away, and see how the load is going to respond to being suspended. That's something you can do, and it ensures that the person on the ground is doing their job correctly. Because if that load is not rigged up right or connected correctly, it will give. You're forcing weight to be suspended in the air, and gravity will take its course. So And I would have to say communication is the biggest thing in being an operator. If you don't have good communication, you could be the best operator in the world, and all your picks will look like shit. Because you're not listening as the operator to the commands that are being given to you, or they're not listening to what you're trying, or they're not listening to you and what you need from them. So it's a give and take. It should never be a love and hate. It should always be a give and take. If you have a love-hate relationship with the guys on the ground, you're not going to get a lot done, and it's not going to be efficient. It's not going to be. You're going to be very frustrated, and that's one thing. That's one thing you never want to be in a crane is frustrated. It'll show. It'll show in how you perform, and it'll show in how they perform. I know that on different crane sites we give these guys a lot of shit, but you got to have a good relationship with them, and if you don't, it'll show, man. And it all comes from the communication. If you have a bad rigger and a bad signal person, replace them. If you know they're terrible at their job and they're not doing it, and they're not doing it right, and they're not giving you exact signal like this guy's giving me right now, if they're not giving you that and you've requested it from them, replace them. You have that authority. You're the one up here having to deal with that. Replace them. And if they refuse to replace them, start refusing picks. You again have that authority. I run a really tight ship, and I will not allow someone to put me in danger or put these guys in danger. You are your brother's keeper. The ultimate goal here all the time is to make sure that they go home to their families and you go home to your family. That's the president. That's the president's and the attitude that you always want to put out there. If you show them respect, they will show you respect. If they're being disrespectful at their job, then, probably something needs to be said or done about it. Hey, Looney. Hey, Looney. Looney.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to cable back down. I need you to unhook that chain. I don't want no loop in that like that. Make sure that's hanging freely.
No.
So, it had a loop in it, and I want it hanging freely because if I accidentally get caught on something, I don't want that loop to catch it. So you want it always to hang freely. Again, training these guys so they don't do it again. It's not necessarily you're going to get it caught on something. You're trying to train them so they don't do that and get in the habit of doing it.
Give it up.
And it probably wasn't even Looney that did it. It was probably one of the other guys. So I take it we're not unloading any more rebar because I'm not unloading that truck by those power lines. Absolutely not.
Oh, they're gonna get the beam first from Gustavo's truck.
And for Boston, just making sure we're clear on that.
I just got 3 feet, sir.
10-4.
We get these 2 boxes first.
10-4, you have to readjust those chains, pull those triggers. Do you have an idea where you want these boxes?
I think I'm over there in the round 330.
10-4, 330. So again, communication. I'm finding out where the direction, distance, and or speed that he needs me to go. So
Going down there with my man. Hey, good. You good? Go ahead and give it that. Give it down there some more.
up cable down all the way, you're gonna have to readjust those chains.
My grandkids love their puppy.
Oh, what's another thing? Tagline. Tagline is your best friend. And if I gotta move the crane 10 feet, I'll allow them no tagline. That's fine. Anything more than that, the tagline's got to be on the crane or the crane doesn't function. I always tell them, think of the tagline as like the power mode, you know? If there's no tagline, the crane can't operate. You know, as much as a tagline is for them to try to control the load once it gets to its destination, the tagline is a great measuring device. It allows you to measure how far you are from something. Tagline we have on there, I think is 10 or I think it's 12 feet. So I know that wherever I put that tagline, I'm 12 feet from something. $10 bucks. 3 o'clock. The hoist motor on this is absolutely amazing. It's really fast, and it allows me to get stuff there pretty quick, if need be. We'll have another box, and we have some scaffold pieces. We have to get aluminum scaffold pieces, and then we'll be back on the truck. I just want to show you guys really quick before we take off here. So over there we have 3 tower cranes, and they have a lattice crane over there as well, and that's another company, and they're building a big structure over there. And we got into the conversation of controlled airspace. So there they have no controlled airspace, they have no obstruction in their way, and all the tower cranes are at different heights, so it allows them to swing over top of each other. Swing here real quick, and I'll start coming down.
You're gonna get that bundle rebar too?
Now I gotta unload this truck real quick. I got another basket and then some aluminum scaffold pieces, and then we're done with this. 2 more picks.
Temple, I the last one. Oh, because you were right there, I thought you were gonna get it.
Drop them chains right inside the basket. Yes, sir.
Nathan, they're here with the breaker, I think.
Where's he at? Right there. Hey, tell him I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna drop my basket down real quick. I'll drop my bucket down. Hey, have him come up on the top platform. Hey, Carlos. Carlos. Hey, have him go over here and come over to this side, because I got to drop the basket over on the right side. This side. Right, I'm gonna wrap this one up. I got my I got my guy here at my breaker, so we're gonna wrap this one up for now. It was a pretty long video, so we're gonna jump off here. I'm Jay Knight, the Tower Crane Guy, signing off for now. Remember, if it doesn't make those dollars, baby, sure the hell doesn't make sense. You are only as good as your last pick, and I promise you guys we'll see you on the next pick on Tower Crane Television. If you haven't done it yet, head over to YouTube, subscribe to my channel, Tower Crane Television. I'll see you guys on the next pick. Peace.